Hello and welcome to channel number 6 Vidik. We are in conversation with scholars. Today we have Professor Ishtiaq Ahmed with us, who is Professor Emeritus of Political Science in University of Stockholm, Sweden. Simultaneously, he is Senior Fellow with Institute of South Asian Studies, National University of Singapore. His research interests are quite wide. He has written on partition, on human rights issues, on minority issues, and different issues of history and political science related to South Asia. One of his important books is biography of Muhammad Ali Jinnah. The title is Jinnah, His Successes, Failures, and Role in History. Today we will talk about this book to Professor Ishtiaq Ahmed. So Professor Ishtiaq Ahmed, you are welcome again.
Thank you very much. I enjoy talking to you each time, so I'm sure we will have a great conversation.
So let's start with the basic idea. So after writing on Islamic State, and after writing a book on the nature of Pakistani state, that is garrison state, and thereafter you wrote a very important book on partition
of Punjab.
The title is The Punjab, Blooded, Partitioned and Cleansed.
Yes.
So what made you write this book, although you have dealt with Jinnah in all of your books?
Yeah, I think there were two positions diametrically opposite. One was the great compliment given to Jinnah by Stanley Walpott, where he says that while leaders have changed geography, Jinnah changed not only geography but also history and founded a new nation. So this is one theory. Just opposite of this theory is that of Aisha Jalal, saying that Jinnah did not want to establish Pakistan. He was looking for a power-sharing deal in a united India between the Hindu and Muslim nations. It is the Indian National Congress and especially Nehru who forced the partition on Jinnah. So in these circumstances, both statements cannot be true. So I had to go in and see what the facts were telling us.
So these diametrical opposite positions were making you uncomfortable, that you...
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, my own understanding, and anyone with any sense of what happened during the freedom struggle, how the partition took place, knows very well that Mr. Jinnah was pivotal, central to the partition of India. But here was a book which, among some historians, especially left liberals, and then one can say even BJP stalwarts like Jaswant Singh, and were saying that Jinnah was secular. He did not want a partition, and it is the Congress which did not show enough present any accommodation for Jinnah because he wanted a power-sharing deal.
So these questions made you write this book?
Yes, somebody had to write the book.
So what was the main source of your research? Was it archive, or what was it that you were feeling that you are uncomfortable with the positions they are articulating?
Yes.
And whereas you had facts which were already documented and they were not being considered by the scholars?
Well, that's a very good question. Insofar as Stanley Walpott and Hector Bolitho, who was hired by the Pakistan government to write the biography of Jinnah, Jinnah was quoted in different places. When I looked at Aisha Jalal's book, will you believe it? It's a book in which the hundreds of speeches of Jinnah, his statements, his messages, which are collected in his speeches and statements of Mr. Jinnah by the government of Pakistan, by Bazm-e-Iqbal, and by many other writers. To my very, very great surprise, Aisha Jalal had not referred even to one speech of Jinnah. And then what she shows in her book has nothing to do with a power sharing deal that Jinnah was trying to get accepted. Only she refers to some British, political figure saying that Jinnah is actually using this as a bargaining chip.
Yeah.
But the question is, I have then gone through Jinnah Saab's speeches from the 22nd of March 1940 when he made what I call the foundational speech. It's a long marathon speech in which he over and over again gives examples from the big difference, the big clash between Hinduism and Islam. Then he gives examples from world history also, where two nations who did not have anything in common had to be separated to establish his basic two-nation theory's credentials, to make it sound legitimate. And then came the 23rd, 24th March 1940 revolution, demanding the creation of Muslim states in those areas of northwestern and northeastern India where Muslims were in a majority. And on the 25th, the final day, Mr. Jinnah gives a press conference which I have quoted. He says, this Lahore resolution is a milestone in the history of the subcontinent because it clearly states that it is about the division of India to create Pakistan. And then I have quoted him from 1940 onwards, 1941, 1942, 1943, 1945, 46, 47, until Pakistan came into being. And Daljit Amiji, not on a single occasion, he said we want anything but the partition of India to create Pakistan. And on several occasions he said, those who are saying that I am using the Pakistan demand to bargain as a bargaining ploy are agents of the Congress party. So Aisha Jalal's book, amazingly passed by the Cambridge University, has not a single statement of Jinnah to support her.
So this very argument that he is using partition as bargaining chip with Congress, the theory has been debunked by Mr. Muhammad Ali Jinnah himself.
That's right. I mean, who else? Today, if you and I, what we have said is to be found, it's what we are saying now. Isn't it what actually, the nearest you can come as a primary source is what a person has written or said.
Or whatever has been documented by the contemporaries.
That may be secondary status. The primary is what you and I say. So these gentlemen reporting us become secondary. You and I, what we have said is our words.
You are right.
So that's what I'm saying.
So this book is 800 plus pages.
Yes.
So I'll pick points from that.
Yes.
So right in the beginning, you have stated that Mr. Muhammad Ali Jinnah is very important personality of his times.
That's correct.
He is living among very many great contemporaries, whether they are from within independence movement of India, that is subcontinent, or at the global level.
That's correct.
There are very many contemporaries. So he is very important, and there are controversies associated to him.
Bilkul.
So you have stated right in the introduction that you will primarily focus on 3 controversies.
That's correct.
May you just list those controversies for the viewers?
No, I don't remember now, but you have read, so you know the list.
So I'll start with this, that firstly from 1939 was Jinnah trying to work out a power sharing deal within a united India because he was against partition.
Yes, I think that we have dealt with already.
Yeah, so
I have debunked it with overwhelming, incontrovertible is the word, which cannot be challenged, that Jinnah actually spoke just against it, insisting all the time. And in the end, he started saying that unless we have the partition, there would be a bloodbath, and Muslims are capable of using violence more effectively than others. I mean, all this is in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the second question is it credible to allege that the Congress wanted partition and imposed it on Jinnah?
Not at all. I mean, this is untenable once again on the basis of the facts. Let me put like this. The Lahore Resolution and before Jinnah's speech, this is 1940. 1 week later, Sardar Sundar Singh Majithia of the Sikh Nationalist Party, he is on record issuing a statement that if the Muslims do not want to live in India with others and want a Muslim state, then those parts of Punjab in which Hindus and Sikhs are in a majority, we will ensure they are either given to a Sikh state or to India, but we will not agree to staying. The Congress, I report, kept on insisting on a united India until the 8th of March 1947. And on the 8th of March, they did it because in March 1947, attacks on Hindus and Sikhs were taking place in Multan and Rawalpindi, whereas in Lahore and Amritsar, both sides were also involved in the fighting. So then the resolution says that we support the Sikh demand for the partition of Punjab. And therefore, that's when I think the date when actually Congress agrees, after trying in the interim government to work with the Muslim League, and already in late February, Nawabzada Liaquat Ali Khan, who was the finance minister in the interim government, came with a budget which imposed 25% taxes on business, commerce and industry, but not a word on land reforms. That is when from among the Congress leaders, it is Sardar Patel who says we cannot work with the Muslim League in a future India. So if we are to look for when did the Congress do March 8, who was the first leader to say we can't now work with the Muslim League because they are working at cross purposes. Instead of the interim government working together, the budget is hitting only the Congress and the Muslim League, which is entirely a Muslim landlord's party, not a word about land reform or any taxes. So as late as 8th March 1947, finally, the Congress party supports the Sikh demand, and then the Hindu Mahasabha demands that Bengal should also be partitioned on the same principle, and that the Congress also supports. But so it is as late as March, April 1947 that the Congress finally agrees to the partition of India.
So one of the important point that you make in the introduction only, so I would just like to you to explain it a bit. You write, I quote, "Unlike other works on Jinnah, which focus on high politics and the clash of individuals with the British, we place Jinnah in the thick web of ethno-cultural, religious, ideological, economic and security linkages within which the game of politics was played out."
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. Because just looking at the individuals is what is the easiest what historians do. I've said that when Jinnah said this, what was the context? What was going on? What was the communal organizations doing? So in all this, you have to place Jinnah and Gandhi and Nehru and others, including the British, to give the full context in which the partition demand, ultimately was successful in dividing India.
So you have written, it's a long 800 plus pages book,
Yes.
but one of the very provocative title, that is about the Quit India movement, a blunder Jinnah used to his advantage.
Yes, absolutely.
So why was it a blunder and how Jinnah used it to his advantage?
Yes. Very quickly, in 1939, when the war broke out, although Mahatma Gandhi was in favor of the Congress supporting the British during the war, the Congress party as a whole said that you say that this war is being fought against fascism for the freedom of the world, but we are ourselves a colony. So first you make us independent, transfer power to us, and then we will do our duty against fascism. The British were not willing to let go India at all because the war was on, had started, and 2.5 million soldiers they were hoping to recruit from the subcontinent. How could they transfer power at this stage? Jinnah Saab then went and talked to Linlithgow on the 7th of September, that is 7 days after the war had broken out, and said, now you should realize the importance of the Muslim League. We can support you all over India in the war effort and help you recruit soldiers into the army. And so the British then openly came in support of Jinnah. And Jinnah is on record saying, up until now it was Mr. Gandhi, Mr. Gandhi, Mr. Gandhi, but now they are turning to me. And Lord Linlithgow, the Viceroy, says, I had a personal reason to promote Jinnah, because if the Congress and Muslim League had joined hands, perhaps we could not have held on to India. So this is clear. The Congress then go further and declare in 1942, August 8th, 9th, the Quit India movement. And the background to the Quit India movement was that Subhash Chandra Bose, who was then in Germany and making radio talks, he was saying there should be an armed revolution against the British. The British at that time were being defeated by the Japanese who were advancing. And in Bengal and in some of these areas, people had resorted to armed violence and killed the British and so on. I think the Congress at that point realized that if they don't go out for the Quit India movement, then Subhash Chandra Bose's call for an armed revolution will, result in an India which can be broken up and so on and so forth. So when they started the Quit India movement, the British then applied the full power of the state they had created, police, security forces, and magistrates and all, and that Quit India movement was smashed. And from that day onwards till June 1945, the Congress leaders were all in jail. And Jinnah Saab then had a free hand to go and convince Muslims that supporting Pakistan was the only way to ensure that Islam is not annihilated in India, that it is completely wiped out, and the Muslims also are not exterminated, that not a single Muslim will exist. So this way, 3 years he could mobilize Muslim opinion, and in the 1945-46 election, the Muslim League got 440 seats out of 495 reserved seats. And now they had the mandate for creating Pakistan.
So you have explained it well. Just help me understand this when you say that the Quit India movement is a blunder, which Jinnah used.
Yes.
Is it just because of the success of Mr. Jinnah to use that situation that it is a blunder, or just that Britishers could use it, Jinnah, for their own purposes? Is it a blunder? So what made you conclude that it's a blunder?
No, I'm saying that already the Congress had refused to help the British. So British opinion was turned against the Congress. Under no circumstance we would let the Congress succeed with us being driven out of India.
Mhm.
Who do they turn to?
Mm.
They turn to Jinnah and the Muslim League, who then everywhere become their supporters.
Mm.
And so the British hold on India is ensured
Mhm.
by the support which not only, by the way, the Muslim League was giving, but also Hindu Mahasabha
Mhm.
and the princes of India. All of them were supporting the British during the Second World War, except the Indian National Congress. And I think the Indian National Congress started this because Subhash Chandra Bose had given a call, which, in my opinion, would have been crushed very easily by the British. Because at least the Quit India movement was not to use violence, while the others were using it, and there was no way the British could be defeated by a few handful of people exploding bombs. So their calculation was that before the British actually resort to full force to crush it, the Quit India movement maybe brings the people out in the streets peacefully to agitate. So I think the British were the main winners in this immediately.
Mhm.
And in the long run, when the partition question came up within the British military, there was a lot of sympathy for the Muslim League, which had supported them during the war,
Mhm.
and contempt for the Congress, which had opposed them.
Okay. So, till now you have explained it well how Jinnah maneuvered through different situations
Yes.
and carry forward his politics.
I have said he was a master politician, always willing to exploit the weaknesses of his enemy.
Yeah. So the title is Jinnah, his successes, failures, and role in history.
Yes,
So now you list the successes.
yes. The success is that finally he got India partitioned.
Mhm.
The
So that was his
that is his
politics.
greatest success.
Okay.
And his failure is that he wanted India to be partitioned on the basis of religion, saying Hindus and Muslims are two separate nations. But he then wanted the whole of Punjab and Bengal to be given to Pakistan, saying that they are Muslim majority provinces, so they should be in Pakistan.
Mhm.
There he was counted by the Sikh leadership, Congress, and Hindu Mahasabha,
Mhm.
who then had these two provinces partitioned. And so that is why Jinnah called Pakistan a moth-eaten Pakistan.
Mhm.
He didn't get the Pakistan he wanted. The Congress did not get a united India with an effective center as it wanted.
Mhm.
And the British got both India and Pakistan to join the British Commonwealth
Mhm.
before they could transfer power.
Mhm.
And so ultimately, the main winners immediately were the British,
Mhm.
who had the final verdict, and Mr. Jinnah partially, who got Pakistan, but with the two provinces partitioned, and the Congress then got the rest of India.
So then how do you evaluate his role in history?
I would say I have looked at two positions on the role of
Jinnah.
individuals. One is the Thomas Carlyle's theory of that heroes make history, individuals make history. And the second is the classic Marxist position that it is the masses
Hmm.
and class struggle which pushes history forward. But there is a third position by the founder of Marxism in Russia, Plekhanov, who says the material conditions are important, but leadership plays a very pivotal role. And I've said Plekhanov's way of understanding the role of the individual as well as of the social and class forces in the case of Jinnah is fully verified.
Okay.
So that's why I say that, and there are two types of leaders. Those leaders, this is, I think, the English historian Carr, who says that there are leaders who are created by the circumstances, and there are leaders who create the circumstances. He says Napoleon and Bismarck were created by the circumstances, but Jinnah would fit into the second type, that they created the circumstances and not were the creation of the circumstances.
Yeah, so it was a fascinating conversation with you, Professor Ishtiaq Ahmed. Thank you very much for joining us for this conversation.
And let me, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, sir, and your team for having this discussion. Actually, this is the first time where the book has been discussed as it should be by scholars, where all these questions I now had a chance to put forward my responses in such a short time.
Yeah, I assume that people will listen to this conversation and
hope
they'll
so.
be curious to read this book and then come up with new questions about
That's
it.
right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ji.
So this was Professor Ishtiaq Ahmed talking about his book Jinnah, his successes, failures and role in history. So this is a long book, 800 plus pages, 21 chapters. It's not easy to discuss this thick a book in a program of half an hour, but I think it is important to get a gist of the book and then engage with the book. So there will be people who will agree with Professor Ishtiaq Ahmed, then there will be people who will disagree with Professor Ishtiaq Ahmed, and that will be the success of this conversation. Thank you very much for joining us.